the common mistakes we do in interviews. I believe each and every person, including myself and yourself who are in this call, they've ever walked out of an interview room, they looked back and they say, why did I do what I did? Or they actually go back and wonder, did I really do my best? So by a show of hands, and also by typing in the chats, let's see the number of people, for those of us in the call, how many of us have ever walked out of an interview room and asked themselves, why did I do that? Did I really give out my best? What is the impression that they were left with? So let's see in the chats, those people who've been able to walk out of interview rooms and they just start second guessing themselves. I can see Winnie has raised their hand. Thank you so much. Who else has ever asked themselves that question? Why did I do that? Did I really do my best? Yes, thank you so much, Esther, for that. Did I really do my best? What do the panelists think of me? Did I leave a good impression? The way I answered that question, is it the best that I could? Yes, Diana, thank you so much for raising your hand. So this is a common thought that each and every person who walks out of an interviewing room asks themselves. But don't fret, today we are here to just point out in black and white those mistakes that we commonly do. Some are obvious, some are not. And we have none other than Jay Walemba to take us through that discussion. So Jay Walemba is actually an international recognized HR consultant, more so in the arena of resume and CV writing, and just helping job seekers get ready for their jobs, including job interview preparations. So he has a Bachelor of Commerce in HR Management from the Kenyatta University, and also has a certificate in International and Strategic Human Resource Management from Allison. He specializes in resumes. If you want to position yourself, to brand yourself as the employee of choice, Jay is your person. So he employs strategic approaches by staying up to date with industry-specific keywords and requirements, and he consistently delivers resumes that maximizes his clients' chances of securing interviews and landing their desired jobs. He also provides personalized guidance on cover letter composition, LinkedIn profile optimization, and other career marketing materials, as well as coaching on interview skills and career strategies. He's also dedicated to providing quality and professional services that reflects the unique qualities and aspirations of each client. So his major goal is to make everyone employable. So Jay, you've had me just asking the audience the question on how they feel after leaving an interview room. And as you've seen, actually 80% of the people in the call said that they doubted themselves. Did they answer those questions right? Did they do what they were supposed to do? Did they leave a lasting impression on the interviewers? So apart from this, just take us through a deep dive of the common mistakes we either consciously or subconsciously commit during interviews. Over to you, Jay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Anne, for that intro. Thank you, Esther, for this session again. After you had last week's session, there was a need to have this session today. So this evening, I'm so glad to be your guest speaker, and I'll be taking you through what mistakes we make and how we can be able to handle them during interviews. So I'll be able to share my screen so that you can proceed. I'm sure we have so many questions that will come up through this. So I'll be sharing my screen. Don't know what is happening. I think I should be. Are you able to see my screen? Anne, you are able to see my screen? Anne, you can see my screen?
Yes, we can, Jay.
Yes, it's visible.
Thank you. Now, what are the common mistakes most people make during interviews? So that is what we will be talking about today. And just by an intro on what to expect. You can see my notes. Now, what we need to understand is that we need to understand that interviews are very critical steps in the hiring process. And in most cases, it's not easy for us to evade any step of the hiring process, especially the interviews. So recruiters are not just about assessing your qualifications, but they also it's also about evaluating how you fit in that company culture and the team dynamics. So it's important that you ensure that you prepare well so that you avoid some of the common mistakes that we'll be talking about. So with many candidates vying for the same positions, being well prepared can help you stand out. And it's key that you prepare because as I said last time is that once you apply for entry-level positions or the mid-level positions, you have many of you that are vying for the same positions. So you need to ensure that you stand out through good preparation. So despite the qualifications, many candidates make avoidable mistakes during interviews. These mistakes can create a negative impression, overshadowing your skills and experiences. You might have performed well in the interview, but some of the common mistakes might undermine your progress. So understanding the highlighted mistakes in this presentation can help you avoid them and increase your chances of success because we're looking at getting that job. And last time we said that we don't go for interviews. When you go for interviews and you don't get the job, you don't fail, we learn. So I want us to have that mentality as we keep on seeking for roles. So the number one biggest mistake we make in interviews is that we lack preparation. So the lack of preparation, it shows that it demonstrates lack of interest and effort in that specific position. So it makes it difficult for you to tailor answers that are aligned to the company's values and goals. So he said that when you're responding to interview questions, you need to have the JD at the back of your mind. So while responding to the questions in the interview room, you need to make sure that you are aligning them to the company values. So preparation will help you understand the company values. It will also help you understand the company mission and vision, and then even what they are about and even their products. So you need to be aware that you align the answers to fit the company's values, goals, and even the product that they are working on. So number two is when you lack preparation, you overlook research. So many candidates overlook the importance of research and the companies they are going to interview for. There are people that you ask them about what the company is doing. They saw the company in the advert, but they cannot tell you anything about the company. So make sure you do more research about the company. Then how can preparation help you? So demonstrating knowledge about the company shows your genuine interest and enthusiasm in that position. So knowing about the company and the role boosts your confidence during the interview. And even talking about the products, even talking about some of the news about the company. If it's a company that is maybe talking about the profits that the company has made in the last 3-4 years, it shows that you have a clear understanding of that company and a clear understanding of the role. And it shows that you have, similarly, you have the interest in that organization. So prepared candidates can ask insightful questions about the role and the company, showing their proactive approach and interest in that position. So the benefits, basically the benefit of you preparing is that it shows that you are interested in that company and enthusiasm. So you make sure that you do enough preparation. Then number two, the first moments of an interview are crucial as they set the tone on how you'll be perceived by the interviewer. So once, I always tell people that the way you answer the question tell us about yourself will give you an opportunity to make the interview a discussion or an interview or make it a conversation. Once you make the interview a conversation, it's so easy for you to have to accelerate confidence and also be able to prove to that potential employer or the interviewer that you are the best candidate for that position. So poor first impressions can significantly influence your interview outcomes, potentially overshadowing a candidate's qualification and skills. You might have the necessary skills, but if you start fidgeting at the first impression, it will spoil the whole interview and you might not be able to recover that during that interview. So that's where now you leave the interview room and you have you already have an answer that I'm not going to get this job. So employers may interrupt a negative first impression as indicative of a lack of professionalism, preparedness, or cultural fit. So employers, because there are many candidates that are coming for this job, we can make, you are giving the interviewers an easy task of eliminating you for that position. So a poor first impression can result in from the various the following various factors. So number one, first impression, punctuality. Arriving late is an issue that will show that poor first impression. Punctuality is crucial as it demonstrates reliability and respect for the interviewer's time. The number two aspect is dressing inappropriately. Dressing inappropriately can convey lack of professionalism or seriousness about the job opportunity that you are applying for. Kuna wale wanavaa Crocs tukienda interviews. That is not something that you need to do. Unless now you've gotten into the company and now you have you are in the company and then you need to understand about the company culture. Understanding about the company culture now, you learn from the peers in that organization. Through that now you can be able to adjust. But the first impression, you make sure that you dress appropriately. The lack of confidence or of confidence. Confidence is important, but arrogance can be off-putting. So striking the right balance is key. When you ask about a question, you need to respond to that question as it's been asked, and don't overdo to show that you are overqualified or to show that you are arrogant about that position. So make sure that you balance between overconfident and just confidence. Then being rude or dismissive. There are sometimes employers might ask you questions that you feel that aren't professional. At this point, you need just to remain calm and respond to the question if you can. And if you feel that it's not a question that you need to respond to, you just tell them that I'll not respond to that because of ABC. Then the other biggest mistake that most job seekers make is that we don't bring essential documents. I've seen candidates that come for interviews and they ask if you can print some papers for them, or if you can print their CV for them, or they tell you that they have a CV in the soft copy. That means that it's on their phone. So forgetting to bring papers and copies of your resume, portfolio, and references can make you seem unprepared and disorganized. So when you are invited for an interview, whether the interviewer tells you to bring your CV, copies of academics or not, that is something that it should always be in your hand when going for this interview. Before you get seated, you should have them on your hand ready to give them in case you're asked with the interviewer. Then the other reason that the number three mistake we make is that inadequate responses. Avoid yes or no answers. Provide detailed responses that showcase your skills, experiences, and qualification. I remember there was a time I was hiring for an HR intern, and I asked one of the questions that I was asking was, what are the functions of HR? So one of the candidates told me recruitment, performance management, training and development, payroll processing, leave management. And then the other candidate was talked about recruitment, and then she explained what recruitment means. Performance management, then she explains. Training and development, then she explains. So this is the right candidate because now said that several of you are vying for these positions. And when they are vying for these positions, it means that you need to stand out and be able to deliver the best. So make sure that there's no yes or no answer, but you can talk about, if it's a point, talk about it and be able to explain. Whether they're talking about strengths, whether they're talking about weaknesses, mention one and be able to explain. Then provide specific examples, especially when you're asked about questions on situational or how you'll be able to or that when they're talking about specific skills. If they're looking at problem solving skills, you can give specific examples. If they're looking at leadership skills, as well, give specific examples from the previous work experience or even academic projects or volunteer experience to support your claims. This ensures that now the recruiter sees you as or the interviewer sees you as someone who is ready prepared for the interview, and you have the knowledge that they need to apply in that other organization. Then number 3, using the STAR method. We talked about the STAR method being the situation, the task, action, and the result to structure your answers effectively, especially when they're talking about situational questions. Describe the context or the situation you are in, then explain the specific task or challenge you faced. Then action, detail the actions that you took to address the situation, and then share the outcomes of your actions to quantify if it's possible. So we talk about, when talking about quantification, is there are times that you're talking about the achievements that you've had. When talking about the achievements, especially in our CVs or even during the interviews, you need to quantify so that it can make so that the recruiter can as well reason out with you and be able to see that that the same achievement you had in the previous role can be easily transferred to this new role. Then number 4, overly negative attitude during the interview. There are those candidates that will come to the interview and they seem like you're even forcing them to talk. So you need, number 1, you need to stay positive and even about past employers. We talked about bad mouthing your former employers. It's something that will not help you get the job. So avoid criticizing previous employer, colleagues, or even if you had negative experiences with those people. So focus on what you learned from the challenges and how they contributed to your growth. So don't always frame negative experiences as opportunities for personal and professional development. Talk about a negative situation and how it helped you grow. Then number 3, you need to discuss how you turned challenges into learning experiences or used feedback to improve your performance. Refrain from venting frustrations or placing blame during the interview. Then use diplomatic language to discuss challenges without sounding negative or defensive. Then number 5. Number 5 is talking too much or too little. I've had candidates that come to the interview and they take over. They become the interviewer and you become the candidate. So ensure that you only answer what you've been asked. Make clear and focused responses. Aim for clear and focused responses that directly address the interviewer's question. Avoid rambling or going off on tangents that detract your main points. So make sure you remain clear and focused in your responses. Be mindful of time, stay mindful of time, and keep your responses within a reasonable length. Structure your responses logically to maintain the interviewer's interest and clarity. As much as you might have so much in terms of what the recruiter should hear, but as long as it's within, it goes overboard, you need to minimize that. Then actively listen. Engage in active listening to understand the interviewer's question fully before responding. So you need to demonstrate your communication skills by responding thoughtfully and respectfully. Then encourage dialogue. Encourage dialogue by asking relevant questions or seeking feedback during the interview. I've talked about, as the candidate, you have the opportunity or you have the chance to make it a conversation or an interview. So once you make it a conversation, you are encouraging dialogue. It becomes so easy for you to be able to maneuver and entice the interviewer rather than being gloomy and not being focused. Then number 6 is overemphasis on salary. So many candidates will spend much of the time discussing about salary. Discussing about salary and benefits prematurely can give the impression that your primary motivation is compensation rather than the job itself or the company's mission. when recruiters ask about why you want the job or why you are leaving your current employer, you don't need to talk about salary. Let the salaries question come later and have it be structured to talk about it in a way that is very clear and highlighting your worth and highlighting why you need that pay for that position. It may also signal lack of focus on fit and alignment to the role's responsibilities and company culture. Wait for the interviewer to bring up the topic of compensation. Typically, this happens during the later stages of the interview process or during the job offer discussion. So you need to have research on salary ranges before the interview to using available tools online. We have Glassdoor, we have MyJobMark, and even other positions in other organizations where you've seen similar organizations that normally post salaries on their adverts. So this knowledge can help you gauge whether the offer is competitive or not competitive, and then you can make a decision based on that. As I said last time, is that on salaries, make sure that you understand your worth and you are able to quantify that when it comes to a specific figure they are asking for. The other mistake we make is number 7 is that we don't ask any questions. When you're told about, do you have any questions for us? Some candidates will tell you that I don't have any questions. So you need to research about the company role, the industry, and formulate relevant questions for that position. So about the culture, you can also ask a question about the culture, team dynamics, and opportunities for growth if there are any. Then demonstrate interest in your role by seeking clarification on the job expectation and responsibilities. You can ask questions about the performance metrics. You can ask questions about what they expect from you within the first 3 months or during the probation period, especially the first 3 months, or even at, after 6 months, where it's a project maybe you are working on. So align your skills, use your questions to show you how your skills and experiences align to that job that you've applied for. Then number 8 and the last one is we neglect follow-up, neglecting follow-up and conversing. After the interview, it's not just about what you say during the interview, but also how you maintain professionalism and engagement forward. I know several people, you refer them to potential employers, they go for an interview, after a day they start calling you, or even after the interview, they start calling you for feedback. After the interview, a communication doesn't end. It's an opportunity to leave a lasting impressions. So a well-crafted thank you note, as we said last time, reinforces your interest, professionalism, and attention to details. It sets you apart from the other candidates and keeps you fresh in the interviewer's mind. So avoid trying to persuade the recruiter after interviews. It can create a negative impression, raise questions and questions about your integrity, and maybe be seen as conversing, which often leads to this automatic disqualification. I've sent candidates for interviews to several employers, and the first thing that happens is that after the interview, the candidates will start calling you. Jay, please ask if the job was failed, or ask if I was successful. You need to give the recruiter time to make decisions and give feedback to you. So the only thing you need to do after the interview is to do a thank you note and then wait for the interviewer to communicate. And as you say that it's the thank you note reinforces your interest in the job, and also it shows professionalism, and it sets you apart from the other candidates as well. It keeps you fresh in the interviewer's mind. So in conclusion, what we need to do is ensure that effective interview preparation is crucial for making a positive impression and demonstrating your suitability for the role. Professionalism in all aspects of the interview, from attire to communication, enhances your credibility and reflects your commitment to the opportunity. So practice is very key to overcoming these common mistakes. Role-playing interviews, researching about the company, and anticipating questions can significantly boost your confidence and performance. Remember, each interview is an opportunity for you to learn and improve. One thing that you should always remember that we don't fail interviews. We only go to interviews to learn something new. and improve on what we already have. That is the end to my presentation. I think if there are any questions, I can take them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we can see, based on your presentation, it has actually elicited some questions from the audience, and I'll jump straight to it. So feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. We'll ensure that all of them are answered. And also, if you feel like, I think I'll give a chance to 2 or 3 people to ask any questions that they might have. So feel free to also raise your hand up. I'll give you a chance to speak. So before I ask my question, let me just jump through to the questions in the chat. So Norbert is asking, how do you know when you're speaking so much or otherwise during an interview? How do you measure your words? Because you've told us don't speak too much, don't speak too little.
Now, I've said that when you asked about a situation, for example, you asked about a situation, we talked about using the STAR method. You make sure that you use the STAR method to completion. And once you've done with the result, the last R now, the STAR method, you've done with the R, you need to stop. And it's when it's a question of maybe they're talking about functions of a specific, maybe functions of HR. You don't need just to talk about recruitment and stop there. You need to talk about recruitment and explain what recruitment is and how it is important to the organization. Once you're done with that, you make it short and precise so that now the recruiter, what you're looking at enticing the recruiter. And you need to give the recruiter information that you need to give this recruiter information. You need to make sure that the recruiter sees that you are the person they are looking for and you have the skills that they want. So make sure that you are aligning every answer to the skills and every answer to the job that you've applied for.
All right. So thank you for that. So people, you remember the STAR trick that Jay has given us. So I think if you just go step by step with each of what each and every letter represents, you're going to be safe in terms of just knowing when you're speaking, to avoid speaking too much or too little. Thank you so much, Jay, for that. So would you give an example of an answer on salary expectation? For example, Jay, what is your salary expectation for this role?
Now, thank you so much for this question. For me, I'll expect something in the range of 200,000 to 250,000 because currently, what I'm currently on, and based on my experience and skills, I feel that is my value, that is my worth, and that is what can necessitate my movement, my shifting from JCVs to conversations with Esther.
Okay.
So
thank you so much. And I think yes, go ahead, sorry.
I've talked about the value that I'm bringing on my work. I've talked about the skills and experience. And skills and experience, and then my work. As you know, the work is based on now the skills and experience. So you need to understand your work. And also, as I said last time, is that issues about salary will be determined by many factors. Last time I talked about factors like being jobless. The other factor is maybe you are transitioning to your career. The other one is that you might be in a toxic environment. So all these factors considered, you need to make an informed decision before now you answer the salary questions.
Okay, so that's fair enough. Let's say we encounter what people can refer to as insensitive questions during an interview, or questions that they're not comfortable to answer. And one example that Sheila has given is if you're married, or if you have children, or if you're pregnant, or if you have a medical condition that we need to know about. So how can interviewees navigate such questions?
Now, when in cases where there are insensitive questions, the recruiter should at first be able to make any specifications in the advert if there need be. For example, if they're talking about if maybe it's a position where you feel like maybe you are going to work in a mine, so most likely ladies might not be allowed to for such applications, especially the technical, the manual job that they are handling. So ladies might not be allowed to work in such an environment. So unless the recruiter highlights some of the factors that might hinder ladies applying for that position, or men applying for that position, it means that when questions come up in the interview, they should be aligned to what he really indicated in the advert. But if not, if they're asking about personal questions, you can dismiss them in a polite way and tell them, I'm not okay with responding to that. And for now, we will skip that. So that if it's information that will be given in your biodata, let it be given in your biodata during the job offer. But if it's a question that you feel is not right for you to respond during the interview, you can just tell that to the recruiter and they'll be okay. I know as long as you do it in a respectful manner and a kind manner, the recruiter will understand that and they'll waive that of you.
Right. So the aspect of toxic work environment, I've noticed it's becoming a buzzword in the work spaces. So someone, Alvin, is asking, how can you identify if a workplace is toxic during an interview? Because I think right now we are rejecting toxicity.
Now, as we reject, we need to understand that sometimes you might not be able to identify that a workplace is toxic, not unless now there are some questions like now what you call insensitive questions. If you have insensitive questions, you might raise your eyebrows on the same. You can also identify a workplace to be toxic, especially when they are the discussion on salary. Maybe the salary they indicated for that position and the salary that are telling you in the interview is totally different, especially if it's now lower. For example, you applied for this position because you saw they are paying 20,000 and now they want to pay 15,000. So you can start realizing that this is an organization that does not have structures. And you might understand that some organizations do not have structures even from the interviewers. If you are being interviewed for a role, maybe in HR, and you find that they've given you an accountant to interview you for the role, for the HR role, sometimes you might feel that the accountant might not understand the roles in HR. So at least you should have someone in your department or someone in the department that you're going to work in, so that now they can be able to, especially if it's an entry level, mid level position, so that you can be able to clearly follow and understand what you're going to do in the organization, rather than now having someone totally different that cannot understand some of the competences needed for that position. So you can, those are some of the ways that you can realize that the organization is toxic.
Okay. So let's talk about interview jitters. That you reach to an interview, you have all the answers, but somehow you're unable to voice them out. You become blank. So how can we handle such setbacks?
Now, interview jitters can be handled by, we've talked about just having mock interviews and arriving on time. When you arrive on time at the interview venue and you've prepared well, you've done enough research, you need to just, once you get to the interview room, you need to just be calm and composed. So once you lose your confidence, that is where the problem starts. So confidence is key for you to be able to handle this well, effectively. So once you lose your confidence, that is now the start of that problem of interview jitters. So make sure you are confident, you are calm, and you are composed, so that you can be able to use wisdom when asked about, when responding to the questions.
And let's say you reach the interview, you find, yes, you know very well you can't perform well at that particular time. Is it okay to ask for it to be rescheduled?
Now, when you get to an interview, now there are several factors that must necessitate your rescheduling. There are organizations that will hire consultants to come and interview. So that means that the company is parting away with some expenditure on this role. So once the company pays someone to come and sit in for an interview, unless you are the only candidate, rescheduling might be an issue. But if it's a company that has the HR manager or the recruitment team within the organization, and you feel that you are not ready for that position, they can reschedule. And also this will depend on your position. If it's a senior position where there are few applicants, they can consider rescheduling. But if it's an intern position, if it's an entry level, like an accounts assistant position where you are more than 20 of you coming for the interview, it's not easy for the company to reschedule. So based on the position and based on the circumstances, if it's an extra cost for the company to hire the interviewers, or if the interviewers are internal, then the company can consider that rescheduling. So you need just to talk to the interviewer and ask them if they might consider rescheduling, and then they'll be able to give that clear information on the same.
All right, thank you. So Sophie, I believe we've answered your question. So we have another one from, I can't really tell the name. When answering the question of why should we hire you? Or if given this position, what would you do different? What's the best way to go about it?
Now, on why the company should hire you, you need to respond to this question using some achievements. For example, while I was at JCVs, I managed to overturn the company from making losses to making profits. And I did that through this and this and this. So you talk about the strategies you put in place to be able to overturn that losses into make them profits. And then also, once you respond to this, why should hire you can respond to this using achievements. So like, for example, I've talked about while I was at JCVs, I made the company, I overturned the company from making losses to making profits through ABC. So you give a clear scenario of the steps that you took to be able to make those profits. So you don't have to talk about very big achievements. You can even talk about making a recommendation to the HR manager where you felt that some of the you felt that there was an issue with the system, or there was much time was being taken in paying suppliers, which have in turn affected now the delivery of items, the operations within the organization. So talk about recommending even a system in the organization that enhance operational efficiency. So talking about achievements on why they should hire you, it shows the potential employer, the recruiter, or the interviewer that you are the person, if you made this recommendation, you are the person that is so keen on details, or you are the person that is very strategic. You look at things, and you can, when you look at things, you can see it in a bigger picture, and then make those recommendations to the organization. So once you make these recommendations to our organization, we can be able as well to enhance the operational efficiency. You had talked about why we should hire you, and the other one was?
If we hire you, what would you do different?
No,
but I think you've answered it in your presentation.
It's the same. It's can be the same answer.
All right. So there's another one, a very common one. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Now, on where you need to see yourself in 5 years, I always say that you need to answer this question in 2-3 ways. The first one, you need to talk about academic, and you need to talk about the career side. So academic, if you are, for example, if you are looking at, you are in HR, you have a degree in HR, when you're looking at 5 years, you can talk about academically, you're looking at going back to school and maybe upskilling and doing your master's. Then another one is career-wise, you can talk about, I'm keen on gaining skills in this position, and I feel that in 5 years' time, I will have gained promotion from a HR assistant to HR officer, and through the ladders. So talk about growth, and there are some that talk about I'll be in your position, or I want to be a manager. Sometimes it might not sound well with the interviewer, especially if the interviewer is the person that you'll be reporting to.
That is noted. So I like there's someone who's using a phone, AZ's iPhone is actually bringing out the aspect of written interviews. So how do we prepare for them? That is number one. And if you're not able to attend for it physically, is it okay to request it to be sent, to be administered virtually?
Now, written interviews, we had a discussion on the same about psychometric assessments. We had a deep discussion on the same. So for written interviews, especially where maybe there are positions that you go for an interview and you need to first check a written interview before you proceed to the physical or oral interview. So sometimes, depending on the organizations and depending on how safe it is for them to have it sent, because they'll need, they might, you might, they might be barring you from maybe referring somewhere or having someone else do it for you. That's where they want you. That's why they want you to do it from maybe the interview site. So if it's something that can be sent, I've seen several organizations as well sent. I've seen interviews with companies like Stimasako. You are on, you're doing a written interview virtually, but there's a camera monitoring you. So you have to put on your camera and ensure that now you're doing that alone and by yourself. So depending on the company, you can request, and if they can, they have enough systems to be able to monitor you do the written test, they'll do that. But if it's something that needs you to be at the interview site, then definitely you have to go there.
All right. So now let's move to post interviews for the next just few minutes. And we'll start with Norbert's question. Is it okay to shake hands with the interviewers as in the room?
Norbert, as always. Now, it's very okay unless if the interviewer brings his hand, that is okay. But not for you to start this. Not like for Norbert, I know he can do this, but nobody should not do this during an interview. I know him very well. He can do this. He likes greetings, shaking hands. So Norbert, unless the interviewer gives you the hand, please don't shake the hand. Don't shake their hands. Usianze kuambia ati wamesema good morning, malizana hivyo. Not unless now they are wameleta mkono wasalimie. That is different.
Yeah, so basically what you're telling us is read the room and
read the room,
with what the room.
Yeah.
Yes. So also along the same lines, after the interview, let's say they promised to get in touch with you after 2 weeks. They've not gotten in touch with you. Is it okay to send up a follow-up email asking them what's the position?
What I always advise is that once you leave the interview room, forget about that interview, start applying for continue applying for other positions. Sometimes it is very, I know, what we all need is closure. Unajua kuna wale watu paka wanataka, they want feedback immediately after the interview. There are some that will ask you, how have I performed at that time? So what they need is closure. Closure, sometimes some companies might not give you that closure. So once for me, I advise that once we've talked about canvassing, you've done your interview, you do a thank you note. Once you've done a thank you note, I think it keeps that, the interviewer's mind fresh, that it has you on his mind or his or her mind. So anytime they need that communication, they'll do it. But if they don't do it, stop bothering them. Keep on applying for other positions. I have a friend that got applied for a job, and she went for the first interview, and it lasted like 3 months before she got that feedback. Some of us, you just forget about it, and once it comes, ikiwa poa, you go for it.
All right, so I think I've covered all the questions relating to the conversation we are having today. And basically what I am getting from you from this particular session and also the other session is you need to be prepared. And preparations comes in, number one, understanding the role that you've been interviewed for, understanding the value that you're bringing to the table, and actually knowing how well to present that value. At the same time, do not look desperate, look professional, at the end of it all. And ladies and gentlemen, once you're able to do this, trust you me, you're going to ace those interviews. And also, let's learn to read the room. Let's treat the interviewers with the professionalism that it deserves. And if it's for you, you will get it. So let's not act desperate. Let's not be too much into the faces and the business of the organizations that we are going in. Just prepare, present your best, and definitely you will get what belongs to you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end the conversation at that point with special thanks to all the more than 80 of you on the call who joined us from the beginning to now. Thank you to all who've asked their questions and interacted with us. Thank you so much, Jay, for always being generous with information and tips that will make us employable, and more so to Esther for giving us this platform in the Fireside Chat with Conversations with Esther Katiba. And right now, I return back the mantle to Esther to help us close with a word of prayer and any final remarks. I have been your host for the session, and Bahati, see you during the next session. Esther, over to you.
Thank you very much, Bahati. Thank you, Jay. Asante sana. I kept chatting someone and saying this was well prepared. Actually, Bahati, we hit our 100 mark, and I know most people have tried to come in for the longest. They are not able to, but we are going to have this on our YouTube, Conversations with Esther Katiba. We are uploading that right away, so you can get that. But thank you, Bahati. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone that made time for this. We meet here again next week, same time, same place, for Powered Conversations. Thank you. And please reach out to Jay for your CVs. I don't do CVs, so I send you to Jay. Honestly, I don't do CVs. I do every other HR work, yes, policies, processes, and the rest. CVs and interviews, go to Jay for preparation, go to Bahati for HR consultancy as well. Bahati, you could put in your number right there as well. Thank you very much, and good night, everybody.
Good night.